President Trump giving a news conference today like no other. Instead of meet the press, he beat on the press and gave an extraordinary assessment of the country. You got to hear it, and a lot of it to believe it. Then, is all the chaos in the White House derailing the Republicans' agenda in Congress? We'll discuss. And also, Bridgegate is back after a judge finds probable cause to investigate Governor Chris Christie. We get reaction from some New Jersey lawmakers. We'll also have a big conversation tonight on the future of tackling in youth football and whether it should be banned in the state of New York, as one bill proposes to do. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. President Trump held a news conference today to announce his new pick for labor secretary. The pick is a law school dean named Alexander Acosta. But after less than a minute of talking about Acosta, the president began an epic rant against the media.
The press has become so dishonest that if we don't talk about it, we are doing a tremendous disservice to the American people. Tremendous disservice. We have to talk about it to find out what's going on, because the press honestly is out of control. The level of dishonesty is out of control.
It was a topic that the president returned to about a dozen times throughout the course of the 75-minute press conference. He did take questions from the press, and not just from conservative media, for more than an hour. One of the questions was about the inner cities and the Congressional Black Caucus. Here's the President of the United States asking the reporter who asked him the question to help him out. This was one of the more bizarre moments in an afternoon press conference that was filled with them.
Are you going to include the CBC, Mr. President, in your conversations with your urban agenda, your inner city agenda, as well as...
Am I going to include
Are you going to include the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional
Well, I
Hispanic
would.
Caucus,
I tell you what, do you want to set up the meeting? Do you want to set up the meeting?
No.
Are they friends of yours?
I'm just a reporter.
No, set up the meeting.
I know some of them, but I'm sure
Let's go set up a meeting. I would love to meet with the Black Caucus. I think it's great, the Congressional Black Caucus. I think it's great.
And why would he think that reporter knew all the members of the Congressional Black Caucus?
That's Dominic's
Stand by, Brodsky. Then the president went on to praise former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Michael Flynn, the name sounds familiar. That's because he's the guy that Trump fired a couple of days ago. Of course, this whole mess, the president says, it's not Flynn's fault, it's the media's fault.
Mike Flynn is a fine person, and I asked for his resignation. He respectfully gave it. And, you can talk all you want about Russia, which was all a, fake news, fabricated deal to try and make up for the loss of the Democrats, and the press plays right into it.
So Flynn did fine, but I fired him anyway. The president also repeated the lie that he had one of the biggest landslide victories in the election ever. Here's that exchange.
You said today that you had the biggest electoral margin since Ronald Reagan with 304, 306 electoral votes. In fact, President Obama got 365 in 2008.
Well, I'm talking about Republicans.
President Obama 332, and George H.W. Bush 426 when he won as president. So why should Americans trust?
Well, no, I was given that information. I don't know. I was just given. We had a very, very big margin.
I guess my question is, why should Americans trust you when you accuse the information they receive of being fake when you're providing information that's...
Well, I don't know. I was given that information. I've seen that information around, but it was a very substantial victory. Do you agree with that?
You're the president.
Okay, thank you. That's a good answer.
Why should Americans trust you if you're giving out incorrect information? Because I won. Here's another interesting moment from the news conference.
The leaks are real. You're the one that wrote about them and reported them. I mean, the leaks are real. You know what they said. You saw it. And the leaks are absolutely real. The news is fake because so much of the news is fake. So one thing that I felt it was very important to do, and I hope we can correct it, because there's nobody I have more respect for, well, maybe a little bit, but than reporters, than good reporters. It's very important to me, and especially in this position. It's very important. I don't mind bad stories. I can handle a bad story better than anybody, as long as it's true.
So the leaks are real, but the news based on the leaks are fake. Okay, I need a little help sorting this all out, or at least, providing some medication. Let's introduce our panel. Richard Brodsky is here, former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now a senior fellow at Demos and a professor at NYU. Next to him, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author. On the other side of the table, a new guest on the program, New York State Democratic Assemblyman Michael Benedetto. Welcome. You represent the Bronx, that's correct?
Bronx, Throgs Neck, Pelham Bay, Co-op City.
There you go. He's got it down to a bumper sticker. And Bill O'Reilly is here, former Republican strategist, who is now a member of the Conservative Party. Gentlemen, help me. First of all, Did anybody take anything away from this press conference that made them feel better about the Trump administration or the direction of the country?
Yes, they're looking for help from the Black and Puerto Rican caucus. And Dominic, can you set up a meeting for the president?
You have to understand, all jokes aside, there's a backstory to what the first exchange that you just played. And so whenever a public official gets locked on a personal battle that they're having with the reporter, they can never win because they come off looking petty, childish, and immature. The reporter that's pressing Mr. Trump is April Ryan. Mm-hmm. She was legendary during the Obama years, wrote a book, close relationship with the Obamas, and now she's one of the few journalists of color, this is important, that's questioning the Trump administration. Just last week, there was a huge argument between Omarosa, yes, that Omarosa, and April Ryan, in which the Secret Service, many reporters felt that they were going to have to get involved because Omarosa told her, we have a file on you. Mm-hmm. And as I told you guys, that's the way these folks get down. They're going to have personal files on each and every reporter. Let me finish. And so April Ryan and Omarosa get into a battle last week. And so Omarosa was obviously, clearly from today, doing the bidding of President Trump. And so that's why you got a pissed off reporter coming at the president, and that's why he responded in a snarky, sarcastic way, are they friends of yours? He was trying to say that you're biased, which is what they've been saying all along about this reporter.
To me, that registered higher than just snarky and sarcastic. I mean, I was a little insulted by the question, and it wasn't even directed at me.
Well, I guess we're both in the same game. I don't take this stuff personal. So whenever a politician strikes out, it's like whatever.
The absurdity of it aside, you people in the press should stop taking this personal. Tom, this is business, and you got to take it as business. He's got a strategy. I don't like it. But every time you whine about the way he's treating the press, you make him a sympathetic figure.
Assemblyman, Peter Alexander from NBC was the one who asked the question about how can we trust you, how can the public trust you if you're giving out incorrect information from the podium about the size of your electoral college win. And we've heard issues like this with the size of his inauguration crowd. He never answered that question. I'll ask you the same question that Peter Alexander asked the president. How can voters in your district or anywhere else trust this president when he's giving out incorrect information?
Well, you can't trust him, and it's blatantly obvious you can't trust him, because I think if you ask any honest Trump voter when they voted for him, do you believe he's going to do X, Y, and Z? And they would have told you no. The scary thing is they elected him anyway. They elected a man that openly lies to people, knowing that he does lie to people. It's a phenomena. I don't know where it's going, but it's scary.
Bill, as the only person at the table who speaks fluent Republican all the time, how does today's performance by the president, how do you think it's going to play in Republican circles?
I don't think it matters that much, and I'll tell you. I mean, I'm a conservative. Mm-hmm. Have worked in the Republican Party for 30 years. My job specifically is to deal with the press as a Republican. Do I think there is inherent bias in the press? Absolutely, absolutely. I've seen it for years. I've worked with it for years. And it's been my job to engage with the media anyway, because that's my job, that's my mission. I think there are enough people on the right side of the aisle that are so sick of that bias as they see it that they're going to say good for him for knocking back. That said, that performance was bananas. You can't have a president of the United States talking like that. Well, we have one, you can, apparently. It does not make me feel better, but I don't think he pays a price at all for his performance today.
Bill, you need to be careful. That people have pre-existing views on issues is true. So do reporters. That they tilt the news to fit those biases or those pre-existing views, that's a much more serious charge. It is possible to be both intellectually engaged in an issue and still report accurately.
Well, let me jump at that for a second, because in my experience, I see a tilt coming from certain reporters, especially some print publications. There is a tilt there, and I'm not the only one that's noticed it in the country. However, you don't see fake news coming out. For example, a New York Times story is not fake news. They may have a take on it that I don't like or is not good for the right, but it's not fake news. They have a system of checks within the editorial side. Same with the Wall Street Journal that was hit by the president today. Same with many other publications.
Fox
We may
News.
not like it, but it's not fake.
Bill, how much of the Republican support for the president right now is something of a Faustian bargain, where we'll put up with the crap that he's put it
All a Faustian bargain.
just so that we can get the policies through that we want?
It's all a Faustian bargain, and my concern is that the Republican Party, because they now own this guy, if he goes down and if his presidency ends up being the way it looks like it may end up, the Republican Party is at existential threat for having backed him.
There's a much better explanation of this. The regular Republicans, the movement conservatives, are going to lead the fight to get rid of Trump.
I agree.
They want a President Pence. Check tomorrow's Huffington Post. In it called.
right for that, Richard?
Yes, I do. Called "The Conspiracy to Impeach Trump," led by movement conservatives. This dumping of the Department of Labor secretary nominee, it was done by Republicans. We have McCain now calling for opposing Mulvaney. There's stuff going
I'd
on.
like to see more of it.
That means you can leave the Conservative Party.
I think what you're saying here is a runaway train. I think the Republicans see it, and they're scared, and there might be some substance in what you're saying, Richard. And you know how difficult it is for me to tell you that.
That's a hard lift.
Dominic, I want to hit you with the last question, which was on the Flynn stuff. Okay, because you've known Trump for a long time, and you've had conversations with him. Flynn didn't do anything wrong. I don't have any problem if he talked to the Russian ambassador about sanctions. I would have asked him to talk about it, but I didn't. I only fired him. He basically said I fired him because he lied to Pence, and also because the media found out about this. How much is this just all denial on Trump's part? He just can't admit that he's wrong?
See, let me start with the premise, Andrew. You cannot judge this guy in conventional political terms. You cannot. He will openly lie. He will do anything to get the narrative, sort of what Bill, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but, and he's right, the Republican Party, they own this guy. You're going to sink or swim with him, whether you like it or not now. So you cannot, to know Trump is to know that he's a con man. I hate to say that about the president of the United States.
Apologize to the con man.
That's a good one. So he will, Andrew, you got to understand, he will say anything. He will do anything. He's never briefed. He talks out of God knows how many sides of his mouth. World affairs are going to be they're already starting to go, he's been in office for 3 weeks, effective tomorrow. Is it 3?
27 days, I think.
And look at what he did with Netanyahu. Clearly no one briefed him for that news conference.
Are we going to come to a point where people realize what Dominic said? I mean, I'm assuming what you're saying is true.
Which people, yeah.
Which
The
people?
voters I guess voters who voted for Trump or voted for Evan McMullen
no
or voted
Majority of voters.
There's no majority of voters voted for Hillary.
I don't think most people realize he is a con man.
There's no evidence that his base is leaving him because of all of this stuff.
I hate to admit that you're right, but
What?
you
We
are.
all agree?
A conspiracy?
All right.
I'm right, but I hate to admit it.
We've reached a point where everybody agrees, so it's time to move on to the next segment. We'll take a break, and when we come back, congressional Republicans have been waiting 8 years for a GOP president, but now that they have one, Republicans on Capitol Hill are facing an uphill battle to get anything done, and they can thank the Republican president for that.